Hey guys, Bethrist here. I've got a Baker Mayfield shirt on, and I love Ohio State, but that young man had the balls enough to plant that flag on the field. I got respect for that, and I follow him. Cleveland Browns so messed up by getting rid of him. They are forever going to be losers because they got rid of him because he got too much attention. Okay, what I want to talk about right now is the true story about the death of Guy Thomas. Everybody knows in Ironton Guy Thomas, a black male. I grew up with him. I went to grade school with him. I went to junior high with him. I went to high school with him. He was in the service. He didn't bother nobody, okay? This is going to be graphic, but you know I'm abrasive, okay? I worked 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. And on the weekends, it was just me and Pam. And we used to joke and say, oh, God, if the city knew 2 women were protecting them, they would wonder what in the world. But we did. But anyway, one night, excuse my dogs, I'm not going to make up for them. That's what they do. It's okay, honey. It's okay. Guy Thomas. He didn't, like I said, he didn't bother anybody. On a cold winter's day, and I'm not going to give the date, I don't have to. A cold winter's day, me and Pam were out on the parking lot, and the patrolman Fouts pulled in here, and I'm not trying to hurt him by any means. This is the truth. You saw it on the news. He pulled in, he went down the alley, and most people come down Washington, they go pull in the alley, but when he pulled in, there was a blood trail, and I looked at Pam, and she looked at me, and then we saw 2 feet hanging out underneath of Keena. We saw 2 feet hanging out from underneath his vehicle. He didn't realize that, apparently, right? Anyway, so we called the fire department. They jacked the car up, and when we pulled him out, it was Guy Thomas. He was at right between 9th and Madison and the next street over, I believe, Jefferson. And some people say he was dead before Officer Fouts ran over him. Some people said Officer Fouts killed him and drug him 9 blocks to the police department. So let's get this straight, okay? I was there. Okay? He pulled in. He got shook up about it. Of course you would, right? Here's the thing, okay? It was wintertime. There was a lot of snow on the streets. And here's the problem. On his windshield, he only cleared off a little tiny circle so he could see. Who does that when you're a police officer? So anyway, he proceeded. I was on a call 3 blocks away. It could very easily have been me that ran over him or me that saw him in the street. I was a block away giving a notice for a wife that her husband had passed away, which is very difficult. And to talk to her, to have to tell somebody that a loved one is deceased. I've went through that so many times. It's the hardest thing about being a cop. But Guy Thomas was at the Legion. He walked down and he was walking home. Okay, so apparently, allegedly, some people think he died and just fell over in the street. I don't think so. And then some people realize that he was hit by an officer, only not hit by I think if I would hit somebody, a human being with my cruiser, I wouldn't know that. But a lot of people that don't clean their cars off, especially if you're a public servant, that's a problem. So anyway, ran over him between 9th and Madison and Jefferson, and then drug him 9 blocks. Pulled in the police department, and Guy Thomas was under his car. His chest got hooked under that thing under your car, and his hat was under the front of the cruiser. So, if you're laying dead in the street, how could your ball hat be attached to the bottom of the front of the cruiser, right? Hey, I'm just telling the truth. I was there. So, here's the thing. So, the chief and I walked From the police department, we walked every single foot of the bloodstains that came from in between Madison and Jefferson to the police station. We walked that. Now, Fouts was shook up. I agree with him on that, but he's still a cop. But you can't help somebody pour on a ticket. My dear God, they'll threaten you with 5 years in prison. My dear God, JB Collier, honey, I know it's hot down there, huh, sweetie. And yes, I'm abrasive. I know it's hot down there, honey. What a crook. But anyway, so we followed the bloodstains and all the way down there. Like I said, it was wet, snow on the streets and everything like that. We followed it all the way to the impact, right? And but on the corner, right across from the group home, there was a big pool of blood, which indicates he stopped for a minute to see if somebody was something was under his car. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a pool of blood. Everything else was strung out. Please stay with me, people. Okay, stay with me. So here's the thing. Here's the thing about it. Guy wasn't hurting anybody. He was just walking home from the Legion. He didn't hurt a soul. I remember seeing him at Speedway. This is the kind of cop I was. And I seen him at Speedway, and I said, Guy, you know you got a warrant. I said, I'm going to turn around for 5 seconds. I don't want to see you again. I'm going to take you to jail. The only reason I'd done that because his family would never pay for him to get out of jail. And he didn't hurt nobody. That's officer discretion. That was being kind on my part. Why take him to jail when nobody's going to bond him out? That's the kind of cop I was. You guys can reap it because you're a piece of crap if you treat people like you do now. Hey, guys, listen. Calm down, kids. Anyway, so I followed the whole thing. His shoe was on Washington and 7th. His wallet was another place. But his hat that he had on was underneath the front of the cruiser. And his body was hooked underneath there. He had burns it was torture. Can you imagine being run over by any car and being drugged 9 blocks by a police officer that didn't take time to clear his windshield? And he's still a cop. Can you believe that? Xenia, Ohio. Fouts is his name. So then you get the chief come on there crying, oh, I can't imagine what he's going through. What a difficult time. What about Guy Thomas, Chief? What about Guy Thomas? You recommended that officer get another job in Xenia, Ohio. But what did you do for Guy? You didn't do nothing. So we had marches around here. We had the family and stuff like that. He was never treated as he should have been treated. Never. Great guy. Didn't bother nobody, like I said. This is what happens in a small community when everybody wants to keep everything quiet. I don't want to keep everything quiet. This is the truth. Then after that happened, the chief had the Smurf crew, which works for the court, go down with a U-Haul and get his family out of there that night because they was afraid of somebody hurting them. Got him out of there. What did they do for me when I got fired? Nothing. The FOP did nothing after I won binding arbitration. Fraternal Order of Police, you suck. If you don't represent every single person that pays union dues, you are a terrible organization. I will never support you. I will always talk about that. You should have stepped in and said, listen, she won binding arbitration. You got to give her a job back. But they didn't. And I know who was involved with that, but it's okay. It's in the past. What I'm saying is Guy Thomas didn't deserve that, and he didn't get enough coverage. Well, no wonder, because WSAZ don't cover anything unless the chief or the mayor tell them to cover it. That's why everything you hear what goes on happens in Ironton. You never hear about it on WSAZ. It took 4 days to get it on the news about Liam Lyons. Because why? No corporate organization or no anybody like that wants everybody to feel like it's a safe community before they bring a business in. It's not safe. It's not safe. If you can't go to Ritter Park without getting beat up and nearly killed, that's a problem. If you can't go walking down the street by 9th and Madison without getting assaulted, that's a problem. And I'm telling you right now, I don't care. I have nothing else to lose. I'm telling you, people, I have nothing else to lose. But Guy Thomas situation and that case, I done the paperwork on that. I got the report. I did the paperwork on that. And the chief asked me to, because he knew, whether he hated me or not, he knew I'd be thorough about it. So, let's talk about another thing. Rest in peace, Guy Thomas. Let's talk about another situation, all right? Down on Hecla Street, 2 guys came in an apartment and beat some guy half to death. It was a shift change. And Chris Bowman, everybody, they knew I loved my job. And Chris Bowman said, hey, Beth, can you handle this? They did that because they thought that guy was going to die. But he didn't. But I went in that apartment. And, thank God I had the equipment. There was blood splatter all over the wall. So I marked everything. A1, A2, A3. And then I went through the whole alphabet. There was so much blood splatter. I took pictures. I measured where the couch was, how far from the body this blood splatter was. I measured everything. It was a 6-page report. And you know what they said? That's too much information. Where do you people come from? Do you guys not want a police officer that tells the truth? I'm telling you, do you not want a cop that tells the truth? I mean, it's that simple. If you want to be a police officer and you go to a police department and they corrupt you, that's on you, man. Have a backbone, buddy. Say, I'm not doing that crap. I'm not doing it. They wanted me to do it. I didn't do it, but another female did. Whatever they wanted to do. And where'd she end up? At the top of the line. What's her legacy? 0. Nothing against her. I had a great time working with her. She's a great person. She's funny, but vulnerable to men that want to tell her what to do. If you're chief of police, you are in control. If you want to fire somebody, you can. Don't blame it on Sam Cramblett that you didn't fire somebody. Blame it on yourself. And Dan Johnson, you're chief right now. Why has Evan McKnight not been fired? And yes, I'm calling you out, Dan. I did. It's the truth. We've got the court documents about everything that happened to me. Why do you not fire Evan McKnight? Evan McKnight lives 2 blocks from me. Okay? Spalgeric was living with Evan. Excuse me, been in the pool all day. But why would you arrest Spalgeric when he was living with Evan over having fentanyl in their apartment while they're in uniform? Why is that? What does Evan McKnight have on the popo? What does he have on the city? I'm not afraid of you, Evan, honey. What are you, about 5'8"? I'm not afraid of you. What, are you going to come and try to hurt me? I don't think you will. It'll be on my cameras, honey. 2 blocks down. I have heard so many bad stories about you, son. And yeah, I'm going to say son because you're a child. I've got shoes older than you guys. What I'm saying is that's wrong. You do not hurt people without a reason, okay? You do not tackle women when you don't know what's going on, just like he did with Teresa Arthur Ward. I'm telling you what, if she would have she didn't know it was him tackling her, so she fought back. And look what happened to her, okay? I'm telling you what, she would have kicked your butt. I'm going to say kick your ass, Evan. She would have kicked your ass because you're all about that proud and that badge. When you guys are in regular uniform, nobody would ever expect you to be a cop because you're dumpy and lumpy and you wear stupid clothes and shit. But when you're in uniform and you got that badge, you're all stout and confident, right? Hey, I'm not going to say I wasn't confident in myself. I was always pressed and creased and my cruiser was cleaned, and they couldn't stand that. They couldn't stand that I had pride in my job, and that's exactly why they got rid of me. I'm on a roll here, kids. Stay with me. Here's the thing, all right? If you lie about something, you have to remember it, right? If you lie about anything, you have to remember it. Then that rolls into, snowballs into another lie and another lie. If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything. I tell the truth. I've got court documents to back everything I say. Hey, hold on. I'll see if I can get it right here. I think I do. You can Google Risk versus Ironton or Bethel. You can just Google me, and you'll find out the court documents. Here's one thing I want to say about the depositions, okay? I'm not looking in the drawers, too many files. Here's one thing I want to say about the depositions in Cincinnati, okay? I had Mark Mezebov law firm in Cincinnati. He demanded $5,000 to even take my case, okay? Thanks to a friend, a dear friend, I retained him. But we went through all the depositions, and so in front of a court reporter and in front of everybody, James P. Carey was sitting across from me. And when I got sergeant, was first female that got sergeant, I couldn't reprimand anybody. So he put a memo out, James P. Carey, yes you did, preacher. You put a memo out that said that no longer sergeants have the authority to reprimand a patrolman. It's been, 200 years that you could reprimand somebody underneath you? But I couldn't. So here's the thing. Here's what I'm saying here, okay? Oh, my dear God. And everybody believe, what do they call it? Sheep in wolves' clothing? Or I might have got it backwards. I don't know. I don't care. What I'm saying is, that attorney asked James P. Carey, he said, have you ever written patrolman wrist up or anything? And he said, no. Court documents, people, I got it. He said, no, I haven't. So my attorney slid over one, and he said, is that your name at the bottom of the paper, James P. Carey? And he said, yes, it is. That was one reprimand. He slid over 2, he slid over 3, he slid over 4, he slid over 5, he slid over 6, he slid over 7. He lied under oath that he said he never wrote me up. Okay? It's on court documents. I'm not lying here, people. I don't care if you love him or hate him. I don't hate him. I'm praying for him. He's a preacher, and I'm praying for him. And praying especially for his wife. What a woman to take care of that child when that wasn't your responsibility. Yes, it's public record. I'm not lying about anything. But what I'm saying is, he lied under oath. Okay? So anyway, we went through the whole depositions and all that. And after the 7th thing that my attorney pushed over to him, and he said, I don't remember that. My attorney took me in another room, and he said, man, you got a good case. This is done. And then what happened? 10 hours later, Mark Mezebov in Cincinnati, Mark Mezebov law firm, called me and said, hey, if you don't give us $10,000, I can't continue your case. The city paid him to not continue to represent me. I've got the facts, people. Mark Mezebov in Cincinnati, Ohio. Honey, you can reach out to me all you want. I got the documentation. And it's been years ago. I don't care what you think. You deserted me after I paid you money. Okay? We ain't even going to talk about Morford yet. That's a whole nother story. What I'm telling you, it was represented. He told me, he said, I need $10,000. He knew I didn't have any money. They starved me out for years. I had to sell everything. The only thing I had in my house was a TV, a lawn chair, and a mattress in the floor. After I had a Porsche, a Jeep, $10,000 worth of equipment in my garage, working out equipment, and a jet ski and a Harley. I had to sell everything I had to pay for that attorney, Mark Mezebov, and he was sold out by the city. So if you have to sue the city, believe me, they have insurance for that. Don't ever say the taxpayers got to pay for that. A lot of people said that when I sued the city twice. I won twice. But here's the thing. The city has to have, any city has to have insurance to pay for a lawsuit. Taxpayers do not pay that. Do you understand what I'm saying? They do not pay for any lawsuit. So rest easy on that. They've got insurance for that, okay? Now, I'm going to go back and talk about each mayor I went through, and I'm going to list their names, and I talked to each and every 5 of them. And I'll say their names. I'm not afraid. Why do I care? It's the truth. Bob Clary, I love him to death. He's a good guy. But when the first lawsuit happened after Bill Garland punched me in the back, while I was just standing there, he slid a piece of paper over and he said, you take that amount and you can resign. I said, I'll take half that amount and keep my job because I didn't do anything. So I kept my job, right? So everything calmed down for about a year, and they started right back with it. Putting index cards in my pigeonhole, which is a mail slot, that said, you're going to die tonight. I've got them. My attorneys have them. You're going to die tonight. On an index card. So what did I do? I went in there on the typewriter, moved that thing back, and got it. Gary, you know I'm going to call you out. You posted that. You typed that out and you put that in my pigeonhole to scare me. I still stayed. My life was threatened. I still stayed because I loved my job. I didn't care about anybody at the police department. I cared about the citizens of Ironton. And everybody knows me, knows that. I always cared about the citizens. I've been doing this for 6 years. I ain't got a dime. What I'm saying is I tell the truth. And I'm telling you right now, between... and Bob Clary's always been good to me. I can't say anything bad about him. He made it up for me from what happened. He understands my situation. He's a good man. I don't care what you guys think. He's been good to me. So you can judge him all you want. I'm just telling you my opinion. But then John Elam. And I told John, I love John to pieces. He's finance director. I told him when he got elected mayor, I said, listen, man, I'm getting harassed at work. I mean, they're threatening to kill me. He said, just keep in touch with me. Nothing happened. So then, who was it next? Rich Blankenship. He said, here's my cell number, Beth, call me anytime. And which I did all the time. I said, man, they're threatening to kill me. I'm scared to go to work. Everybody's got a gun. And what he ended up doing, he ended up moving to Virginia. But I want to tell you one good thing about Rich Blankenship. The day we opened, I was on city council. The day we opened the new Ironton Russell Bridge, I asked him, after I'd been fired from him, but I'm sure it wasn't him that done it. I'm sure he was pressured by the money man and people that don't want the truth to come out. And you know who I'm talking about, don't you, Bill? And, but anyway, we were at the ceremony where we cut the ribbon, and I was on city council. I've been on there with him, and after he fired me, and I said, can I get my picture taken with you? And he goes, why? And I said, honey, but we're on city council. It's a big day. And he looked at me with tears in his eyes, and he put his hands on my shoulder, and he goes, Beth, I'm sorry. I said, honey, that's okay. It wasn't your fault. That's okay. And I respect Rich Blankenship for actually telling me he was sorry for firing me. I have more respect for Rich Blankenship than I do any other person down there because he apologized to me. And I still got my picture taken with him, making $120 a month on city council. I risk my life for the price of a pizza. When I first got hired, I was making $10.51 an hour. And what did they do? Oh, let me find it here. Hold on. What did they do? Hold on here, kids. I got it. What did they do? Okay. Here's what happened. And I keep stuff, not for ammunition, but I keep stuff for things. So here they had this in the Tribune, right? Talking about me being the first female officer, right? Made a big deal out of it, right? People hated that. They couldn't stand it. So what I'm saying is, if you show interest in what you do at work, and you tell your coworkers, believe me, my dear God, they'll make sure that you have to do it. Now, when I was working in the police department, in my first year, people would call in there and say, hey, send that new woman down here to our intersection, because I wrote tickets, but I was nice. I said, hey, man, I'm sorry, it's my job. Have a good day. If they had hot food in their car, I'd say, hey, go home and eat. I'll get you later. And people would ask that, so they put me on dispatch. Well, you got to use a little bit of psychology sometimes on these idiots. And yes, I said idiots. That's my favorite word. And so they put me on dispatch, which I hated. And once I told somebody I hated dispatching, they kept me there. So then finally, after about 4 weeks, we had a TV in there. That old Market Street place, there was all kinds of bugs coming from the ceiling and stuff. The old sales back there, they kept all the bicycles in that they never told anybody. They sold them in an auction. They never told anybody, hey, we got your bike. They were all kept in that cell on Market Street, and they sold that stuff instead of taking it back to the original owner. Oh, don't get me started, kids. I want to roll. Here's what I'm saying is, so one day, I just sat back, propped my feet up, and was watching TV, acted like I enjoyed dispatch, and what they do, put me right back on the road. So I'm saying, if you tell any coworker in your job that you hate doing something, they'll tell another coworker, and they'll make sure you do it. If you tell somebody you love doing something, they'll make sure you don't. I'm telling you. I'm going to say this. It might offend a lot of men, but I don't care. It's the men mentality of having control over a woman. No man can stand a woman having the same authority they do in a man's job. I worked at Armco, had the same harassment. Every job I've had, I was a lifeguard at the beach, 124 lifeguards in front of Boardwalk. I was one of 2 women out of 124 guards. They do not like a woman in a man's position. Okay? So, I'm going to end it with that. This is Bethris, WITO 1230 AM radio. The music you know, the station you love. Listen to it, okay? Listen to it. It's great music. I love you guys. Thank you for your support. Thank you for the calls. Thank you for all the comments. I appreciate you so much. Thanks, Brian and Jody. Bethris, God bless, Thornton, Ohio.